The two Dogmen fought savagely over her. Dear Scary Stories NYC. My young son and I witnessed a woman involved in dealing with two Dogmen, each of them larger than she was. We were looking out my son's window in his bedroom when the situation started. And what was to happen next entirely changed 3 human lives completely and permanently. One of the Dogmen was manic and insane, with dark fur and wild, bright eyes. I'm going to call him the Dark One, and the other one I'll call the Gray Dogman. In truth, both were various shades of gray. Both were also upright and bipedal. 2 terms that my son and I only learned after we Googled Dogman and real werewolves, and that was only after this incident. So that's another way that this changed our lives. It increased our vocabulary. I guess I should start at the beginning, which I have been told is a very good place to start. My son and I were spending a lot of time together during the pandemic period. His mom had passed on suddenly right at the beginning, and I was on an extended leave from work. After that, I've mostly been working from home. I don't remember if this happened when I was on leave or at the beginning of starting to work from home, but it was back when my head was a bit on the confused and stunned side. My son, who I'll call Sonny, just to be unoriginal, was mostly doing okay as far as I could tell, but I was still kind of walking into walls a bit. On this morning, we were in my son's room, looking out his front window, which looks out onto the street in front of our home. We live in what my wife used to call a countrified suburb. It's about a minute or 2 walk in either direction on our block to get to the next address, and we all have a nice amount of land in the back as well. Across the street from us is a woodland that lies between 2 homes that are spaced even farther apart on that side than on ours. During that period, Sonny and I would like to look out on the morning sunrise to the east and point out all the different things that we saw. Like I would say, wow, I see a bright sun, and he would say, I see a lot of trees, and we would take turns noticing things, which would get more detailed as the game wore on. Sonny said he saw a monster chasing a lady, and I laughed because I thought he was joking. I asked him if he saw that on TV, or on his tablet, or what. But Sonny pointed out the window. Down there, running through a narrow path toward our street, was a beautiful woman wearing office clothing and a horrified look on her face. Sonny started crying that the monster was gonna get her, and that was when I saw it for the first time. A demon from hell was following this woman, something unlike anything which I had ever seen before. I thought it had horns up on top of its head, like a devil, but those were actually animal ears, bent in fury, and momentarily impersonating the shape of bull horns. This was in many ways a humanoid figure, but a humanoid steroid freak if you ask me. It looked like it was born and grew up in a gym, but clearly this beast man earned each of those muscles out in the wilderness, not by using treadmills and dumbbells. When this character ran after that woman, I noticed his size and his intense musculature, clearly visible even under a thick layer of dark fur. When he ran through areas where the sun was shaded by the tree cover, though, I noticed his eyes. It was as though the light brown or amber eyes were the only part of him that hadn't walked into shadow. They stayed just as bright as they had been in full daylight. I woke up out of my momentary daze because Sonny was crying at what he was seeing below. I pulled the shade to block his view, turned on a cartoon he liked, and told him to be good until I was back. Then I locked him into the room, and I ran downstairs and out the front door. There, I could hear the woman gasping and shouting for help. And for 1 second, I saw her running toward me. I could see that she saw me, as her eyes opened wide when she looked at me. Then, in the next second, I saw the huge, dark, demonic, dog-headed, man-like beast thing running after her. He was far taller, and I felt as though her story would be ended once he succeeded in catching up to her. I was inhaling and mentally beginning the process of running at full tilt toward that woman. I was full of emotion in that moment, and I was not thinking clearly. My son crying for this woman was too similar to the trauma that he and I had just recently gone through. I think I wanted to save this woman because, well, I just really didn't want to see her getting taken down in her young adulthood. There's too much of that in the world already. I didn't want to see it happen on that day. So as I was in the middle of taking my first step in racing directly toward that big dark dogman to try to rescue that total stranger lady, when I saw a big, silver, abominable snowman hand jut out from the woods and grab that woman by her fragile, tiny wrist. And then I saw that huge silver hand tug her entire rag doll body off that path and out of my sight. And just like that, she was no longer there. But you know what? That big dark dogman was still there. And he was still running directly toward me. I should have gotten back in the house probably, but I had scrambled brains. And so for some reason, I ran to my right. I don't know why now, and I didn't know why then, but I ran to my right, past my own house, and down toward nowhere, basically. I didn't know what I was doing, but I was doing it as fast as I could. I looked over my shoulder, and that big dark dogman had run out onto my block. Then he'd seen me, and then he started trotting after me. He knew he wasn't even going to have to run to catch me. His legs were so much longer than mine. I was done for, and I didn't even know what happened to the lady I was downstairs to save. My son was locked up in his room. It just wasn't an option for me to allow myself to get taken down by the dogman in that moment. I could not let that happen. And yet, I was letting that happen. I screamed in surprise as out of the woods from my left crashed that lady, being held, carried, pushed, and dragged by a large and stunning gray wolf, who stood like a man. I believe he had hands with which he held the woman, but this was a wolf. Even its hands were somehow wolf-like. I'm not even sure what I mean by that, but I know I mean it emphatically. And it was with those wolf-like hand paws that the big silver man with the enigmatic wolf face kinda tossed me and that woman together. She fell onto my shoulder weeping, and I panicked as I saw that big dark dogman trotting right toward the two of us. But long before it could attack, the beast was intercepted by the upright silver wolf, who was nearly as tall as the monstrous and hateful-looking demonic dogman. The two joined in a brutal combat, which left cracks in the road that my son and I can still point out to any unbelievers. I got that woman inside, and somehow she was a part of my family from the very first instant. She took care of Sonny while I called the police. Of course, the two dogmen were gone by the time the authorities arrived. And of course, they didn't believe a word that any of the three of us said. But somehow, it didn't feel like it even mattered anymore. The three of us were drawn closer together each time the cops mocked our assertion that we witnessed two large dog-headed humanoids battling over this lovely young office assistant. I finally found out what happened. It turns out this lady was waiting for a bus on the other side of those woods when the dark dogman came out of nowhere and chased her down the sidewalk. She ran into the woods to get away, and I guess we already know how the rest of it went. She was on her way to a job interview that she never arrived at. Sonny and I were both nearly traumatized again that day because of that large dark dogman, but the big gray wolf-headed humanoid brought me my new wife, and Sonny, his new mom. I'm not going to act like it happened overnight, but we are set to get married this coming June. No, the Dogman is not invited to the wedding, although I suppose we are quite grateful to both of them. My fiancée says I'm clearly the alpha male, because I'm the one who won her hand after the two Dogmen fought savagely over her. Our executive producer is named CS. That's how you know we are blessed. Please join us in thanking today's executive producer, CS, who is also our supervising producer. CS might be the most important of all our supporters in a few ways, as she offers her perspective on things to keep us sane and motivated. She's really been a nice help to us as things continue to be weird all the time in the world of scary videos. CS is not only a great channel member, but she's a very nice and good person too. So please give some thanks to CS, as she's one of the main reasons we're still online. You know, all our channel members get to see our secret uncensored Dogman stories that come out 4 times a month on Sundays, and you only have to be a $3 member to get to see our over 25 hours of archived scary Dogman stories too. So there are ways to support the channel on a budget, as is about to be explained by our international TV spokesmongrel, Henry Lee Dogman. Thanks, Biggie, and thanks to all of you for watching this far. If you liked it, please click like. If you'd like to see more of our work, please subscribe. And also click that bell icon if you'd like to be notified when we put out a new episode. To become an executive producer, you can donate to us through the thanks button under each of our videos, or through our paypal.me/PeterBernard209 page. To receive cool perks like secret uncensored Dogman episodes far too wild to ever run on this channel, you can become a YouTube channel member by clicking the join button, or join our PayPal subscribers club at peterbernard.com. Joining either at the $3 a month level or above gets you access to our over 25 hours of secret uncensored Dogman stories available nowhere else. Do you have a scary story about Dogman or some other kind of high strangeness that happened to you? Let us know by emailing us at scarystoriesnyc@gmail.com, or by leaving us a voicemail message at 804-LA-SCARY. You may need to call back on that one. It cuts off after, I think, 3 minutes. And if you don't want to do any of that stuff, thank you for simply watching to the end. Good night, and have a scary tomorrow.
Come back for more scary stories.